Welcome to this series of lectures on Mauryan Empire. If you have been following this series of mine, you will know that I have already published videos on sources and dynastic history of Mauryas, Ashoka's policy of Dhamma, Mauryan administration and economy. Today we will talk about the cultural heritage of the Mauryan Empire, its art, the contribution that the Mauryans made in the field of art. We could say that the first organized art activity in India in large scale and durable material belonged to the Mauryan period. Chandragupta Maurya, the first Mauryan ruler, may have been responsible for the original planning and execution of the buildings of the city as well as of the royal palace. But Bindusar and Ashoka added considerably to the original layout and the buildings. Before we talk about the main aspects of art, the various sculptures and pillars, columns, etc., which we have, it is essential to talk about the characteristic features of Mauryan sculptural and architectural remains. First of all, they are all monumental in conception and design, inordinately fine and precise in execution. This is one of the important features of Mauryan art, sculptural and architectural. Secondly, all the Mauryan sculptures, including the monolithic pillars, were executed in hard sandstone. They were always very finely chiseled and very highly polished to a glossiness which has hardly any parallel in India and in the world. Thirdly, the another important characteristic feature of Mauryan art was that the Mauryan art was basically a royal or court art. The huge resources of the state made available to the artists rendered possible the conception, planning, and execution in such large and gigantic proportions. Also, it is difficult to say, and there is a debate whether the evolution of the Mauryan art was the outcome of natural historical process or directly or indirectly conditioned by India's contact with the contemporary West Asiatic world. Many scholars have suggested that the Mauryan art, particularly the figures, the animal figures and the pillars, etc., they were greatly influenced by the art of the Achaemenid dynasty of Iran. In fact, Wheeler has suggested that the Mauryan craftsmen employed by the state may have been Persians who had settled in India. And a few other historians also have pointed out the Hellenic or Greek influence on Mauryan art. Now let us look into what the Mauryan treasure of art actually includes. So we could classify it into the following categories. First, we will talk about the Mauryan royal palace and the city of Patliputra. Then rock cut architecture, Ashokan pillars, figure sculpture, and finally terracotta objects. These are the main aspects on which we are going to focus in this video, this presentation. So first of all, the Mauryan royal palace and the city of Patliputra. The famous metropolis of Patliputra, situated at the confluence of Son and the Ganges, is stretched in the form of a parallelogram. It was enclosed by a wooden wall and crowned with 570 towers. Sumptuous palaces adorned the city, which housed a large population, including many foreigners. The Mauryan wooden palace survived till at least the end of the 4th century AD. The palace seems to have been destroyed by fire, as may be inferred from the ashes and burnt fragments of wooden pillars found at Kumrahar near Patna. So the city of Patliputra in itself was a very prominent piece of architecture. Secondly, we come to rock cut architecture. So we have 7 rock cut sanctuaries in the hills, about 31 kilometers to the north of Gaya, 4 on the Barabar hills and 3 on the Nagarjuni hills, which belong to the time of Ashoka and his grandson Dashrath. And these are perhaps the earliest known examples of rock cut architecture. Then again, talking about rock cut architecture, we have 3 caves bearing Ashoka's inscriptions, which belong to the Barabar Barabar group, which are named as the Karn Chopper Cave, the Sudama Cave, and the Lomasa Rishi Cave. And these caves, all these caves, are marked by the Mauryan architectural characteristic of a bright, polished shining from their walls as well as roofs. Now, let us look at how do these caves look like. This is the picture of the Karn Chopper cave. Then this one is the Sudama cave, and again this one is the Lomasa Rishi cave. So these are prominent examples of the rock cut architecture of the Mauryan period. Thirdly, the third important aspect of Mauryan art is Ashokan pillars. In fact, the Ashokan pillars are the best specimens of Mauryan art, and there are a number of monolithic columns or pillars with an excellent craftsmanship, shining polish, and magnetic animal capitals. Now, these Ashokan pillars, are made of two types of stone. Uh, some are of the spotted red and white sandstone from the region of Mathura, and others of buff colored, fine grained, hard grade sandstone from Chunar near Varanasi. Now we find that the crowning glory of these pillars are the animal figures at the top of the pillars. Now, the animals represented on the top of these pillars are, we will look at these pillars and the animals which have been represented on the top of these pillars. So, at Loryan and the Gad, the crowning figure is a single lion. So, as you can see in the picture, there is a single lion which is represented at the top of the pillar at Loryan and the Gad. Now, next we have on top of the pillars at Sanchi and Sarnath, there are four lions back to back on the top of the pillars at Sanchi and Sarnath. The Sarnath pillar raised in the Deer Park, where the Buddha priestship is first summoned, is the first finest modern pillar. And as you can see, we have four lions back to back on these pillars at Sanchi and Sarnath. Then another important pillar is at Sankisa in Farrukhabad district, Uttar Pradesh, which has an elephant as the capital. So again, you can see in the picture that the pillar is represented by an animal on the top of it. Next one, we have at Rampurva, there is another pillar, and at Rampurva, a bull has been represented. Again, if you look at the picture, you can find a bull being represented at the top of the pillar. Finally, we have at Loria Araraj, the capital of the Loria Araraj pillar, according to V.A. Smith, had a Garud on top of it, but many other historians believe it to be a single lion. So this is again the picture of the Loria Araraj pillar. Okay, then we come to the next aspect of Mauryan art, which is figure sculpture, and quite a considerable number of independent figure sculptures of various size and proportion, and a few fragments of reliefs have been ascribed to the Mauryan period. For example, at Parkhan near Mathura was found a statue of a man 7 feet high in grey and highly polished sandstone, and it also is said to bear an inscription in Ashokan Brahmi script. Another example of figure sculpture is a complementary female statue found at Besnagar. And then we have the very famous Yaksha and Yakshini statues. The two statues of Yakshas and a statue of Yakshini. They are considered to be one of the masterpieces of Indian art. In figure sculpture, another example we find is of are two male heads and three small fragments of head of the same material and similarly polished, and these have been found at Sarnath. And finally, when we talk about Mauryan art, it is the terracotta objects. So a large number of terracotta objects of various sizes have been found at almost all Mauryan sites extending from Patliputra to Takshila. And these terracotta objects have a well-defined shape and clear ornamentation. Terracottas consist of primitive idols, toys, beads, ornaments, etc. This was about Mauryan art, the different aspects of it. And to conclude, we can say that the Mauryan age was a period of cultural brilliance. The entire northern India was under a very efficient central administration, and there was law and order and material prosperity. And amidst such peaceful atmosphere were produced the works of art of the highest excellence. The stupas, the pillars, the cave, and the edicts gave to the country a visible unity of culture. And therefore, Indian art was raised from the position of the handicraft and primitive art to the status and dignity of fine art, the finest known to the contemporary world. This was about modern art, and I hope this video proves to be useful for you. If you have liked the video, please share it with others. And there is one more video to be published, which will be the last one on the series of videos on Mauryan Empire. It will be about decline of the Mauryan Empire, so please look out for the next video. And thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you.